Joining us now. Jonathan, I'm not asking you to wade into politics, but I do think it's important to point out that Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, Hakeem Jeffries, they remain silent on this since we had this third document discovery over the weekend. I mean, they're dodging questions. This is when we have seen them asked on the record about this. Listen.
What did you think to yourself looking at that image?
How that could possibly happen, how anyone could be that irresponsible.
No one is above the law, not even a president or a former president of the United States.
A large chunk of the Republicans, not all of them, but a large chunk have become what I call MAGA Republicans, Trump Republicans, with little respect for rule of law.
Okay. Okay, so that is some of what we have heard about classified documents being found and the importance of it. Why is it not the same? And Jonathan, what questions do you have at this hour after you've been taking us through this breaking news? You joined us all throughout it last week.
Well, you know, the Democrats are facing a rather unique dilemma in that they finally found a position you can't spin out of. And this is a city where spin is an art form. But there is no way to spin this. There was an effort the first 2 days to say, oh, this is inadvertent. It's a few documents in a closet. Let's not make a big deal out of it. By the fourth discovery and the other details that have come out, it's really impossible to spin this to say that it's not a very serious violation of classified rules and laws. But, you know, the position of the White House is really getting to be almost comical. You cannot claim that the residence is purely a private setting when you've used it to store classified documents. I mean, it stops being a purely private domicile when it's also housing classified documents. And indeed, some people have called it a crime scene, but most certainly it's an investigatory scene. This is a place where classified documents may have been held in highly unsecure circumstances for 6 years. Now, by the way, the saying that you don't have a log to the residence might seem like a good position to have. It's not. It's actually going to be far worse. A log actually you can turn over. The House of Representatives has legitimate interest in who was in that house. The minute you store classified evidence in your house, there is an interest in whether there are security violations or possibly of being compromised. So they can get that information from another source, and that source would be staff and family. They can start to interview them, and I think courts will support that because courts are not going to buy this argument that this is just one more private domicile on a quiet little street.
I want to dig into what you just said there more on that in just a second, because what we did just play out was Nancy Pelosi. We basically turned back time on the revelation of the Trump classified documents. When Pelosi said no one's above the law, you had President Biden saying, how can anybody be that irresponsible? Chuck Schumer, pointing fingers, but they have remained silent. In fact, this is the way they're responding, Jonathan. I'll tee it up again when asked about the Biden documents.
Do you have any comment on President Biden keeping classified documents?
I'm sorry. You seem much more measured about this than with the Trump documents, because you call for transparency with the Trump documents. You wanted lawmakers to have access to the documents seized from the former president, his residence in Florida, which it seems like you...
The bottom line is, I said that night, it's premature to comment on what should be done.
So you think that your statements are consistent for both?
I sure do.
Okay, so just to be clear, they're going to be put in a position pretty soon here to say something. James Comer, who I believe is going to join us on this program tomorrow, he's insisting there should be more transparency about this investigation process. Jonathan, where do you fall on that? How much should the American public be privy to what we are learning, especially when it comes to who was coming and going to the president's the vice president, then the president's residence there, when these documents were sitting there? Is that public information, do you believe? Should we know that answer?
We should be able to know many of these answers. It's not enough to keep on saying we've been transparent when you really mean we're transparently uncooperative with the press. They haven't been transparent. They have refused to answer questions that they can answer. There's no legal barrier to them answering those questions. So the questions are mounting, including the use of these lawyers. You know, there was this initial question as to why you sent lawyers into this office in the first place. It does not appear that the University of Pennsylvania or the center was asking Biden to vacate the office. But even assuming you're going to vacate the office, what was the role of these private lawyers? But that question gets far more serious after November 2nd. So after November 2nd, they have found highly classified documents. And the indication has been that at least some of these lawyers did not have clearances. And what was really surprising is in the last discovery, where they said they overlooked some documents, one of the attorneys said that the prior attorneys did not have clearances. Well, that means that almost 2 months later, you were still using uncleared attorneys looking for documents that you know have contained highly classified documents. The other question is why it was overlooked. Most classified documents are within a folder that has a broad border, and over the top are these sort of all-cap statement of the classification. It's hard to miss. I've worked with classified documents for 30 years. The only reason you would miss that is if it was taken out of its folder. And that would be a very serious thing here when they're arguing inadvertence. If someone took a classified document out of a folder, they clearly knew it was classified and that it was at these locations.
Really important stuff there and big questions yet to be answered. Jonathan Turley on all of that for us. Jonathan, thank you very much.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.